Hey, you guys, I want to tell you a story that I just think is so cool and fascinating. It started off with something that happened to me the other day, and now it has become a history lesson. so, the other day, my daughter graduated 8th grade, and then the next day, actually the middle of the night, I dropped her off for a 2-day field trip. So I thought, while she's gone, going to take advantage for a little bit of me time, and I had this Groupon for a while for a paddle boarding and exploring the grounds of this historical site in Fort Lauderdale called Bonnet House. So I used my Groupon. Okay, so I had to make a reservation for the paddle boarding rental, and I was running late. Well, actually, no, I wasn't running late. And this is important because I'm always running late because I try and squeeze too much in and then I run out of time. But I was actually on time. I was going to be leaving exactly when I wanted to, but Spirit alerted me that they wanted to talk to me. This was Tuesday morning. And Spirit does that all the time. I don't always talk to them when they alert me because I'm so used to it. I kind of ignore it. And then at some point I'll be like, were you trying to get my attention? Spirit uses my kitchen lights. And they will, when I turn on the kitchen lights, or it doesn't have to be like that, but more often when I turn on the lights, they'll either flicker one or they'll make, like, one won't come on. And it'll take a few seconds for it to come on, like 30 seconds or a minute or something like that. Sometimes I'm like, can you please turn the kitchen light on? And it doesn't matter. Like, without fail, I will end up changing a light bulb and then it'll start happening with another one. And they're LED lights. I'm like, aren't these supposed to last? But I know it's Spirit. It's been going on for a long time. Back when I first originally was fighting demons, that it was flickering because of the demons. But now those are all cleared out and I know that it's not an issue. And now, like, the spirits who were involved with helping me with that, like, they just continue to use the lights as a tool to get my attention and to talk to me. Or just to let me know they're around. I can see spirits sometimes. Like, my gifts and whatnot have advanced and opened up to the extent where I will see them with my physical eyes sometimes. Like, I know how to meditate with my eyes open. I haven't done it in a long time, but because it's hard, and it hurts. I mean, it doesn't hurt, but it's like it dries out your eyes because you don't blink. And I wear contacts, so it's hard. But when I would meditate with my eyes open, I could see stuff. I could see the spiritual vortex, and I would see images and stuff in the spiritual vortex. I actually saw one of the demons in that one time. Okay, so it doesn't scare me. That's why I talk about it. Like, I'm just used to it. I defeated a bunch of demons. Yeah. Like, my spiritual warfare bottle involved a lot of that because of my soul history and my twin soul history and our together soul history. It's a thing, but it's not a thing. Like, it doesn't bug me. I've been there, done that. They don't scare me. If they try to attack me, they're going to find themselves destroyed and permanently. So yeah, it's not a thing for me anymore. But yeah, so I saw one. I told it to fuck off because I was trying to have a conversation with my angels. It was a thing. Anyway, so now I will see silhouettes. Like, it's not in my direct vision, it's in my periphery. So I'll, like, see something and I'll turn to look and nothing will be there, of course, but I see it briefly. And I started noticing that a couple years ago, but it's been more often lately. I've even seen a couple of fairies that, like, I didn't realize that's what they were at first, but then later on I confirmed it. Like, did I just see what I thought I saw? So anyway, the times that it's happened before, it was like, I don't know how else to say this. It was dead people who were trying to send a message to someone. I don't actively connect with my mediumship gifts because I don't want to. I don't like to use the mediumship as much. I prefer talking to, like, angels or ascended masters, and spirit guides for readings. I don't prefer dead people because there's a lot of pressure And if you start letting them in, they can get relentless because they want someone to talk to who can recognize them. So I don't normally let them in, but there's been the occasional time where they've kind of insisted, whether they wanted to send a message or they needed help crossing over. Like one time, okay, apparently this is story time. I'm going off on multiple tangents. One time, it was for a friend who her dead fiance wanted to give her a message, and I had previously connected to him once before. So he came through and I saw his silhouette, and then I connected to get the message and give it to her. And it was kind of funny because when I was still trying to confirm like who I was talking to, and so I started asking her questions about like how he died and names that were popping into my head, and she's like, holy crap, like that's his first name, that's his dad's first name. I'm like, okay, well now we know it's him. So that's one example. I've seen one of my spirit guides who that's hard to explain. She's human, she's still alive, but her soul's separated from her body right now. Anyway, not going to go down that story. That's a long story. And I've also seen, and actually I've been wanting to tell this story anyway because it's also like a spiritual warfare warning. Like, this isn't about twin flames though. This is just like when I say that people in real life experience spiritual warfare all the time and you don't realize how much, like this is what this story is about. And like, honestly, when you think about killers, murderers, serial killers, like they're not just sociopaths. Like they have demonic entity attachments that are causing them to behave in these ways and to do these things. Really important to realize this. Because it's not as simple as what we think. And, you know, if people were to realize this, like it's possible that people could be saved, including the killers themselves. Like if they had exorcisms done on them, had these demons removed, like maybe we would save lives, but and that's another story. Anyway, I pause because I'll be revealing a little bit of information and raises that question of who might watch this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. My cousin by marriage, year and a half ago, her fiance murdered his mother and tried to kill her. And in the weeks after that happened, I was curious about some things. I had heard at some point that it was suspected, at the very least, if not diagnosed, that he had schizophrenia, which spiritual people know that schizophrenia isn't necessarily a psychological disorder. It's potentially a demonic presence. Like it doesn't have to be a mental disorder. It could be an actual like entity attachment or possession. So I started asking questions, and my uncle told me that he had even talked about seeing demons when he was high on LSD. And I know someone else who has had that happen as well. And obviously, like, that raises the question about the drug use, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't real, because now we know that demons are real, right? And spirits are real. So I ended up, once I had those facts, I started investigating, spiritually investigating. No longer real life investigating, 3D investigating then, and I switched over to spiritual investigating. And I did actually confirm that he was possessed when he did this. That he had, because of his drug use, had opened up portals to dark spirits, and one of them had attached to him, and he was partially possessed when that happened, and that caused him to attack his mother and kill her and try to kill his fiance. And when that happened, even though I'd never met either one of them. Well, I met my cousin, but I had never met the fiance, and I had never met his mother. But because of connections to me, her soul must have known that I am a medium, and I saw her spirit. I saw her silhouette, and she came to me for help crossing over. So that was interesting. Okay, so the video is going to end. I'm going to continue story time in the next video. Okay, story time continued, and I'm actually going to get to why I started recording this. Although now I don't remember how I tangented or why. But anyway, point being, I can see spirits. I don't see my daughter. Actually, before my daughter went through puberty, she actually saw them, like, for real, and she would describe them to me and tell me what they looked like. And fortunately, it was most of the time not something to be concerned about. The ones that were concerning are no longer around. We got rid of them. But yeah, like, she one time was like, there's a woman in the corner she's wearing this, that, and the other, and her hair's in a bun. I'm like, okay. But when she started going through puberty, she lost that. I think that she buried that stuff because it was a little traumatizing. So now I see the silhouettes. Oh, okay, so I know where I was going. Oh my God, hold on. Pain. My tailbone's still not right. Apparently it takes some time to heal that. Okay. So I was talking about how the kitchen lights flicker when spirit wants my attention. One of the times was, that's where I would see some of those spirits. Just like a week or two ago, I walked into my kitchen in the morning and I thought I saw a silhouette. And I'm like, I literally in my head, as I'm going to turn on the kitchen lights, I think to myself, did I just see? And I turn on the kitchen lights and one flickers and another one doesn't come on. I'm like, yep. So that's confirmation that I just saw someone. I ended up confirming that it was my spirit guide, who is the one that I said is alive, but her soul is separated from her body right now. So, she wanted to talk to me. That was why she, popped up for me to see her, because she wanted to talk to me. So now this time, okay, so I was going to leave to go paddleboarding and I was ready to go. I was actually on time. Walk into my kitchen, the lights flicker. I'm like, ugh. So I go, and it's been happening frequently lately too. Like, they want to talk to me a lot. So I go to talk to spirit, get out my pendulum, and I ask, okay, like, is it urgent? Do you need to talk to me right now, or can this wait until later? And they said it's urgent and they need to talk to me right now. I'm like, okay. So I go, so I continue talking to spirit, and I get the message that they want to give me. And it is a message about my twin flame, but it wasn't actually urgent, although I didn't really pay attention to that at the time. I just continued. I got the whole message at some point after like 25 minutes passed, because it takes time to get the messages. I was like, okay, is that everything? Can I go now? Can, like, we finish this later? Can I ask more questions later? And, they gave me permission to go. So I was late. I was half an hour late. And I called on the way to say, hey, I'm running late. Is that okay? Or just to let them know. So fine. So I get there, and I get started paddleboarding. The weather, it's the beginning of summer in Florida. It's not actually summer yet. I'm actually oddly picky about that now as a reader, because I recognize when you get season cards that technically summer doesn't start until the solstice, but it's, when the weather changes for us. So we get more thunderstorms now because it's so hot that the heat creates the thunderstorms. So it was overcast. I expected it's probably going to rain. Not that big of a deal. I'll just hunker down if it were to get hard, or I'll just keep going when it's sprinkling. I guess the only thing I would have to worry about is if there's lightning around. So it's overcast. I take off. I'm on the Intercoastal. And they're right next to where I go out into the Intercoastal. First, there's this little side waterway that goes over by Bonnet House. And because I want to, it's been a little while since I've gone paddle boarding. I love it, but I never make the time to do it. So before I start going down the middle of the Intercoastal waterway, which has a lot of boat traffic, I wanted to go down this side area, kind of get used to it again, get my bearings. I'm going down this little side waterway, and it's more, I can't think of the word, but it's not like the intercoastal, there's lots of buildings and huge houses and boats and stuff. But this waterway was all like plants and fish and birds and stuff like that. And like you didn't see any buildings really. You just saw the mangroves and whatnot. And then you would see Bonnet House as you're getting closer. So as I'm approaching the area where Bonnet House is, and there's this boathouse, this old wooden boathouse. And as I'm approaching that, like it had already started sprinkling, but I guess it was starting to get harder. And I wanted to check out the boathouse anyway. And I was going over to the boathouse, and literally, like, as I am gliding into the boathouse, like the heavens opened up and starts pouring down rain, like torrential downpour. And I glided into that old boathouse, just like literally within seconds before it happened. So I did not get soaked on. Like I did not get rained on at all. I only had that light sprinkling. I did not have the torrential downpour hit me. And I just waited in there until it's passed. I was able to look on the radar and see that this thunderstorm had popped up, and it took a little while. It took like 30 to 45 minutes for it to leave. And it was raining hard enough that I didn't want to go out in it. And there was lightning too, so fine. But it was just perfect timing of me like gliding into that boathouse and waiting out the storm. And later on, when I was telling the story to a friend, it hit me. I'm like, that's why Spirit delayed me. Like Spirit intentionally delayed me leaving so that I wouldn't get stuck in the pouring down rain out in the intercoastal. And instead, I was safely waiting in the boathouse during the torrential downpour. And like when I had that realization, I was like, oh my God, that's so amazing and cool. Like I just love it when Spirit does stuff like that, or gives like these obvious whether it's signs or messages or synchronicities. Like it cracks me up, and I love it because I love seeing that evidence in real life, So I thought that was so cool how Spirit delayed me so that I would be safely in the boathouse when the torrential downpour hit. But then here's the history lesson part of it. So that boathouse was creepy as fuck. Like as I was gliding in there, I was like, I don't know about this place. But I was going in because the rain was coming. And I was legit creeped out while I was in there. Oddly enough, while I was in there, I didn't think about spirits, but I did feel like I had this weird fear of like a shark, a giant shark jumping out of the water and eating me. And I did feel uncomfortable while I was in there. I felt like I wasn't alone. I kept like looking over, like I kept seeing something in the corner of my eye and looking over and nothing's there. And like I said, I did not connect it to spirits at the time. But later on, I showed the picture to my older daughter, and she's like, that place is haunted. And she's only somewhat in touch with her gifts, but she's like, that place is haunted. And then later on, I was like, oh my God, that's why I was picking up the shark energy. The shark energy was probably coming from a negative spirit. So just now I connected with Spirit and I asked about the place, and sure enough, it is haunted by a family of 4 that the father murdered the wife and kids, and it was a murder-suicide. But here's the crazy cool part. So I started this is what I end up doing when I'm doing my past life history readings. I start researching historical stuff too. I'm going to try and wrap this up before I run out of time. But I started researching, and there's nothing associated with the actual Bonnet House. So I asked Spirit, what year did this happen, this murder? And Spirit told me around 1215, which is obviously a long time ago. And then I start looking at the history. It does say in the history of Bonnet House that there's evidence that has been found on the property that the Tequesta Native American people lived there going back to 2000 BC. And then I started doing research, and yeah, sure enough, the Tequesta people lived in all this area going back 2000 plus years. And Spirit confirmed that it was the Tequesta people who were living there, and that's who it was that did the murder, suicide, and all that stuff. And I was just like, totally amazed. I think that's so amazing and cool, especially when you can connect it with historical stuff. Although obviously I don't have proof of the murder, but okay. I'm out of time. Cool story time. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye bye.